What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time for the first official upset alert video of the 2025 college football season. Yes, week one is finally here. College football is fully back. It's pretty much been back in full swing since this past weekend, but now the real excitement begins. This weekend, it is Labor Day weekend. We got college football games starting up mainly on Thursday night, and then continuing all the way to Labor Day on Monday, so a really good action-packed college football weekend as always when it does come to Labor Day weekend. So it is time for the first upset alert video of the 2025 season for week one. Which teams are on upset alert heading into the first weekend of the college football season? And I've been doing this the last 3 years. Usually this video does get a ton of views, and I'm pretty excited to do this again. Hopefully it gets a lot of views again this season for 2025. So what we do is we take 8 games total, 4 games each, pick out the games that are least likely to be upsets, and then the other 4 games are most likely to be upsets. And whoever that team is favored, that team is on upset alert in my opinion. So let's go ahead and jump right into it for the teams that I think are on upset alert here heading into week one of the 2025 college football season. We'll start from the least likely and work our way down to the most likely upset. So we'll start here with the least likely upset in my opinion. That's Alabama at Florida State. This one will be at 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Alabama's favored by 13.5. Yeah, I'm not really surprised that Alabama's favored here this big. I mean, obviously Florida State's a very tough place to play. I get it. As a Florida State fan, this spread should be pretty low because you got a new quarterback in Alabama taking over, Ty Simpson making his first official start. I don't really think it's going to be a problem though for Alabama. You look at this Florida State team, I just don't know a ton about them. Question marks of course coming into the offseason, after a disappointing year last year going just 2-10. After this team of course went to the college football playoff, or actually not to the college football playoff, but undefeated in the regular season a couple years ago. So obviously Florida State might come in a little bit hyped up for this one because it is against a top 10 Alabama team, and Ty Simpson of course making his first start. You got to wonder what the nerves are like here for Alabama going into this game with Ty Simpson as the starter. I think he'll be just fine. I think he gets off to a little bit of a slow start. Florida State can make this a competitive game in the first half, but I'm sorry Florida State fans, I just don't think an upset is likely going to happen here, and I can understand why Alabama is favored by 13.5. is because Florida State's coming off a disappointing year last year, and we don't know a ton about them. Yes, they do have talent on the roster, and Mike Norvell is a pretty good coach, but I just don't think Alabama is definitely going to struggle here in this game. They got plenty of weapons on both sides of the football, and they definitely are the more talented team going into this game. So I don't really see an upset happening here. That's why it's in the least likely category. Again, Alabama's favored by 13.5 in this one. Next up, we got Syracuse and Tennessee at 12 o'clock Eastern time, noon Eastern time on ABC. Of course, this game will be in Atlanta. Tennessee is also favored by 13.5, over and under also at 50.5. You got Tennessee, Joey Aguilar taking over at quarterback. That's obviously the biggest storyline here for the Vols. They lost a lot on offense last year, so Tennessee definitely has to, figure out how these young guys are going to step up, because I think their defense actually is going to be the strength of their team this year. And then on the other side, Syracuse, Syracuse coming off a great year last year. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year, and I don't really think an upset is going to happen here in this one either. Tennessee definitely is the more better team, but if you got Tennessee, so inconsistent on offense, compared to where they've been in the last couple of years, we've seen Tennessee's offense good at times and then sometimes bad at times, and with Josh Heupel calling plays, the Tennessee offense should be really good, but it hasn't been like that in the last couple of years in my opinion. So if Tennessee's offense is so inconsistent in this game, and they just kind of focus on the ground game a little bit more, then Tennessee might have a really, inconsistent game, and it could be a little bit of a closer game than you might expect. But this is a Tennessee team, again, that is just more talented than Syracuse. Again, I'm not really expecting much of a fight here from this Syracuse football team coming up in 2025. And again, I can see why Tennessee is favored by 13.5 in this one. Pretty similar to the Alabama game. I just don't see an upset here happening in this one any anytime soon. Next up, we got Virginia Tech and South Carolina, 3 o'clock Eastern time. This will be on Sunday afternoon on ABC, and this game is also going to be playing in Atlanta. South Carolina's favored by 8 points, and the over and under sitting at 51.5. You got Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a team that got a lot of hype last year. Well, this year, not so much. I don't know much about this Virginia Tech team, if they're going to be really good or not. They got Kyron Jones back at quarterback. We know how good of a quarterback he is, but you just look at this South Carolina team, they're definitely going to be the more talented team, but I think it's going to be all just about Lenore Sellers and what he's capable of, for 2025. Obviously getting a lot of hype, being a Heisman candidate and everything like that. I don't think he is a Heisman candidate. South Carolina definitely has a lot to prove, for me, in order to be for real as a team. And then also, I don't want to go with them too far being a playoff team. So, maybe South Carolina, with all that hype, maybe they struggle in this game against Virginia Tech. Again, they are the more talented team going into this game, but they're only favored by 8 because it's probably on a neutral field, and that's pretty much the reason why South Carolina is only favored by 8 points. Again, Virginia Tech, I think, is capable of pulling off an upset, but I just think they're going to have a pretty tough time stopping Lenore Sellers at running the football. So yeah, South Carolina definitely. I don't think an upset will happen here either, but you never know. This one's at 3 o'clock Eastern time on ABC, and it's also on a Sunday before Labor Day. Moving on, we got Toledo and Kentucky. This might surprise a lot of people. This one will be at 12:45 Eastern time on the SEC Network. Kentucky is only favored by 7.5. Yeah, that might surprise you a little bit, but as a Kentucky fan myself, I'm not really surprised that Kentucky is favored only by 7.5. You look at this Toledo team on the other side. This is a very respectable group of 5 team out of the MAC. They're coming off a pretty good year last year, so Kentucky cannot overlook this Toledo team because they got Ole Miss the next weekend. What if Kentucky is looking ahead to that game? What if they come in here and saying they're going to probably roll over Toledo and beat them by 30 points? That's just not going to happen. I think Kentucky is going to have a pretty tough game here, and they got some question marks, especially with the new players coming in from the transfer portal. How well are these players going to step up? And then Zach Gazelda, I really don't know much about the guy. I know he was a pretty good recruit coming out of high school, but he's coming over from the FCS level, and that's really going to be tough here to play at the FBS level. So yeah, Kentucky, if they don't bring their A game in this one, yeah, Kentucky might get upsetted here in this game. So look for this game to probably be a potential upset alert game. I don't know if I see it happening because Kentucky is the better team. They should be able to win this game, but still, it's a game that really can, make you, scratch your head a little bit. So, yeah, Kentucky definitely has to bring their A game. If they don't win this game, oh boy, it's going to be a long season for Kentucky, and Mark Stoops might get fired even before, get to the end of the first half of the season. So, Kentucky and Toledo, this one is at 12:45 Eastern time on the SEC Network. Again, the Wildcats only favored by 7.5. Now we're getting into the games that are most likely to be upsets, in my opinion. First up, you got Boise State at South Florida. This one will be on Thursday night at 5:30 Eastern time. Boise State's favored by 6.5. Over and under sitting at 63.5. So that's a pretty high over and under. We're expecting a lot of points to be scored here in this one. Boise State, of course, coming off the playoff appearance last year. So far for the Mountain West, it's not been a pretty good start for the Mountain West, in my opinion. You had a couple of Mountain West teams, or I should say 3 of them. You got Hawaii that beat Stanford. Yeah, that's good news there. I think Hawaii might be the best, group of 5 Mountain West team right now, in the country. And then you had UNLV struggle against Idaho State, an FCS opponent. I heard somebody say that's one of the worst teams in the FCS level. So that was that was a very big surprise in my opinion. And then also Fresno State losing to Kansas. So the Mountain West, I don't think is off to a really terrific start. Is the Mountain West going to have a playoff team this year? Yeah, Boise State is actually one of the top Mountain West teams in the history of college football. But you look at this South Florida team. They're a really respectable group of 5 team as well. This is a team that's been well coached in the last couple of years. They can definitely compete with some of the best teams in the country, and we've kind of been seeing that with them, in the last couple of years when they were competitive against Alabama. They're definitely capable of pulling off an upset here, in my opinion, and I can understand why the Broncos are only favored by 6.5. I think it should be lower. I think it definitely should be in that 3-point range. So yeah, South Florida definitely capable of pulling off an upset here. I would not be shocked here if this did happen. Plus, it's on a weeknight. We've seen some upsets happen over weeknight games, and yeah, this is one of those that can definitely be an upset here. So, South Florida and Boise State, 5:30 Eastern time again on Thursday night. Next up, we got another big game, LSU at Clemson, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Clemson favored by 4, over and under at 57.5. So yeah, we're expecting a lot of points to be scored in this game. You got an LSU team that has really struggled in opening season games. They played some really tough opponents, in the last few years ever since Brian Kelly got here. And under him, they have really struggled in these season opening games. Last year, I think they definitely should have won in the opening season game against USC, but they definitely came up short. And I can understand why they lost to Florida State in those other couple of neutral site games. So, yeah, LSU is going to have their hands full in this one. They take on a Clemson team that's getting a lot of hype this year. Cade Klubnik, of course, potentially the favorite to win the Heisman. And you got a ton of production coming back for this Clemson team. They are the favorite in the ACC, in my opinion. And then also, they just are going to be a pretty tough offense to stop because LSU's defense, yes, they do have talent, but, LSU's defense has not been able to kind of, really get taken care of in the last couple of years. So, yeah, Clemson definitely, LSU is capable of pulling off an upset here, but at the same time, I think Clemson definitely is not going to struggle here big time. But again, I could see an upset here playing out in this one. Again, it's a very tough place to play, though, in Death Valley. I think it really does come down to the quarterbacks as well. It's really going to come down to Garrett Nussmeier and then also Cade Klubnik. We'll see how much these two quarterbacks can improve as the season goes along. But yeah, Clemson, 7:30 Eastern time against LSU on Saturday. This is a very, very big game, and it could be one of the second biggest games of the weekend. But another big game here this weekend on Sunday night, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. It's Notre Dame and Miami, a top 10 matchup. Notre Dame's favored by 2.5. Over and under at 49.5. So they're kind of expecting a low-scoring game here in this one. Notre Dame, I think, is going to have a pretty good run game. It could be one of the best running games in the country. For Miami, the talent is there, but, we've seen the inconsistency for Miami in the last couple of years. I should say ever since Mario Cristobal, came here for the Hurricanes. And Carson Beck, of course, will make his debut in this Sunday night game. We've seen the good Carson Beck, and we've seen the bad Carson Beck, especially last year when he threw to, opposing teams and threw really bad throws. Can he take care of the football this year? I mean, this is a really good Notre Dame defense. And then also for Notre Dame, I think it really does come down to C.J. Carr and what he does as the starting quarterback for Notre Dame as well. So, yeah, Miami is capable of pulling off an upset here, but I think it really does come down to the offense. It really just comes down to consistency for this team on both sides of the football. If they can stay consistent, Miami has a chance to be a really good team heading into 2025, but an upset definitely is likely possible here in this game. And then finally, we got the biggest game of the weekend. Yes, that is Texas and Ohio State, noon Eastern time on Fox, so the big noon Fox game here on Saturday. Ohio State's favored by 1.5, over and under sitting at 47.5. No surprise there. This is probably projected to be a low-scoring game. Before I talk about this game, Lee Corso, of course, making his final appearance on College Game Day. Game Day, of course, will be down here in Columbus for this opening game. Yeah, I'm going to miss Lee Corso a bunch, especially with the headgear picks. He just made college football so much, more fun to watch. And yeah, college football won't be the same without him. But Ohio State is favored by 1.5 here. I'm really surprised that the Buckeyes are favored here in this one because, Texas is the number 1 ranked team in the preseason. So even though Texas is number 1, they still are the underdog. And so I think that's going to motivate Texas a bunch here because for the Buckeyes, you have a ton of question marks at the quarterback position with Julian Sayin. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I just don't know how much the kid has played. And we didn't really see him play a bunch last year for the Buckeyes either. So it really does come down to him, and I think it's also going to come down to the defense for Ohio State. Yes, well, I think they'll have a really good defense, but for Texas, you got Arch Manning on the other side making his, first full-time year starter, but, he's played in other big games. He's already played, some football here for this Texas football team. And yeah, he's definitely got a lot more experience than Julian Sayin does, and that's really what I think Texas has an advantage for. Arch Manning's already played some big games, so yeah, I don't think he's played in a big game like this, but still, he's already played in games. He's got a ton of experience from last year, and then probably from the year before, so yeah, I think Ohio State's going to have their hands full in this one, and this is also a revenge game for Texas from last year's college football playoff game in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Texas did win this game. I mean, I wouldn't really call it an upset victory if Ohio State wins because they're favored here, but Texas is the number one ranked team in the country, so maybe that's a little bit of a slight upset, but still, I wouldn't really call it an upset because the Buckeyes are favored, but it would be an upset if Texas does win this game. So that is my upset alert games heading into week number 1 of the 2025 college football season. Who do you see getting upsetted this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.